Welcome to Uncovered. It's Wednesday. I'm Anthony, he's Ron, and we're about to uncover the MAGA propaganda that is not covered by the mainstream and corporate media. We are independent media, and we tell it like it is, as it were. I've changed my intro, Ron. I don't know where that came from.
I know.
Let's
threw me off. I thought I was in the wrong show.
Right, exactly. What's going on? We should probably start with Iran. Last week there was we were about to hear about this peace deal that Trump was kind of about to announce, and we all were taking it with a pinch of salt. It turns out we did the right thing to take it with a pinch of salt. I got very frustrated with the way the media were covering it, and I actually went on one of my old networks in the UK, and they were interviewing me about it, and I'm like, why are you spreading his propaganda by saying there's about to be a peace deal when this is just a presentation timed perfectly for his birthday, so he can say that he announced something on his birthday as he was planning to? But really nothing changed. Nothing was agreed. J.D. Vance was on the other camera going, yeah, there's not really much here. I mean, how did you feel when the media kind of jumped all over this kind of false narrative?
I mean, there should have been a few things that were set off some red flags here. First of all, the Trump administration announced they were not going to release the details of the deal publicly.
Yeah,
it was going to be kept confidential. And They claimed that was sort of for Iran's, so they could sell it to their own people. That's what their claim was. However, it was leaked to the media. It was published by both CNN and Bloomberg. I think was the first one that put it out there. And then CNN followed up shortly thereafter. And then you heard some things from the White House saying, well, that's not everything. That's not all exactly right. But it appears to be exactly right.
Yeah.
Second is the fact that Marco Rubio has disappeared. Marco Rubio has gone into the witness protection program. We have not heard from him in 3 days.
Nope.
And not seen him.
Nope.
Now, this is the United States Secretary of State. The job of the Secretary of State is foreign policy, negotiating the ends to wars, negotiating treaties, negotiating memorandums of understanding. He has disappeared because he has future presidential aspirations and wants to distance himself from this. J.D. Vance, as you mentioned, is doing the same thing, distancing himself from this, and Republican senators are also doing that, criticizing the deal openly.
Mm-hmm.
Israel has not much to say, or their friends in the United States. They're just grumbling and griping. So, and then you have Trump, who's out there, dribbling things out here and there through different comments, Truth Social posts. And you're sort of able, he's actually saying too much. And I think that's a product of his dementia.
Yes.
The fact that he slips up all the time and says things that he shouldn't say. Like at the G7 today, he admitted that our strategic oil reserves were so low, we had like 4 weeks left of oil. Right. And that is what forced him to make this terrible deal. Is we were drawing down our strategic oil reserves like crazy to keep a lid on oil prices and keep them somewhat reasonable. But that party was going to end in about 4 weeks. And then Iran really would have had us.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he even admitted that today was pretty surprising.
Well, he doesn't know what he's saying. I mean, I think we need to be clear now that this guy is gone. And you could see the faces at the G7. You could see Emmanuel Macron looking at him like he was nuts. Keir Starmer was trying to stay out of his way. And the backtracking that's going on now, Trump does this thing. It's I guess it's kind of sales techniques where he has outs. So he doesn't use the kind of language of confirmation. He uses this very kind of general language, and then it gives him the opportunity to take advantage of those outs that he's prepared for himself. I want to show this clip from the G7 where he basically admits that it is a deal, but it isn't a deal. You decide.
Any more? One more? One more? Go ahead, Peter. Let me finish with Peter because he's been better to me than he's been to Biden.
Thank you, President Trump. I have a question about this weekend. Why not stick around for the signing ceremony with this Iran peace deal?
I might.
You might?
Yeah, I might. But I'd rather, this is a memorandum of understanding. It's very important, but it might not be the kind of a document that I should be signing.
There's some element to this where you send the vice president. If it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, it's the vice president's
I
fault.
like that idea, sure. Well, this way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Notice Howard Lutnick thought that was really funny, but the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, stayed completely straight-faced. I mean, Trump is bonkers. I mean, the stuff he is saying, he's resorting to, like, cheap comedy routines to get himself out of this and take the heat off him. But Rubio is not happy, clearly.
Except, Trump's not joking there. And the reason that Ducey asked that question is because he knows Trump. He knows exactly Trump's MO,
right,
which is something that he negotiates, something that he does. If it goes south, he looks to blame somebody else. If it goes well, he takes all the credit. And it's kind of funny for Ducey to even suggest that Trump would do that, considering he's the Fox reporter. But you hear Trump perk up right away. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And his supporters will say, well, he's only joking around. No, Trump doesn't kid about stuff like that. The other thing that I noticed about this conference today was just how out of it he looked. He looked and sounded just he got up there and he rambled for almost an hour, his initial remarks before he even took questions. And this is not normal at a summit like that. And he was going into how the election was stolen and Biden and all this at the G7.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get his chair to work properly. He was upset that he was sitting too low, that he was caught on a hot mic talking about this, I think, with Macron, where he was upset that his chair was too low and it made him look small compared to everyone else. He was looking at everyone else and he wanted his head to be higher at the table than everyone else, but he couldn't figure out how to raise his chair. So Macron was trying to show him how to do it and he couldn't figure it out. So he had to call over people to help him raise his chair.
Yeah.
And then there was another moment where they were all up on stage doing the photo thing. And this was something they used to criticize Biden about, was that when these things would wrap up, he would sort of wander off somewhere and someone would grab him and bring him back. Trump did that today. It was really funny. The thing that MAGA used to make fun of Biden about all the time, Trump exactly did it. He started walking off. And again, I think it was Macron who maybe is his nurse at this thing, is assigned to keep track of Trump, because he is sort of an empathetic person, Macron. He grabs Trump before he walks off stage and he's like, oh, we're not done. Come on back. There were so many little moments like that where you see he really is. I mean, we talked about it for a while, but he really is rapidly deteriorating.
Yeah.
And for the first time today, I said to the other guys, I said, I'm not sure he's going to finish the term. And that's the first time
I actually thought the same. And I've always been of the opinion that he's going to last another decade and won't leave the White House. I haven't changed that position because two things can be true, but he could stay in the White House and be extremely unwell.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that there have been plenty of leaders in history that have ruled their kingdoms on their deathbeds. And
Right.
And he wants to be a king. Macron has been getting a lot of criticism, though, because he's holding a kind of banquet for him tonight. And they're basically saying that this is a little bit much, considering that Trump is, not really an ally to Europe anymore. And that it's showering Trump with too much praise and attention, whereas Macron is basically playing him and knows how to manipulate him, has seen the UK do it with the state dinner and King Charles and all that stuff. And so he's taking advantage of Trump. And Trump is like, oh, this stuff isn't gold leaf, this is the real thing. I mean, what do you think? I mean, the way to play Trump, do you think it's right that they're going to these lengths?
No, I think that's their playbook. And it's an old playbook. It's a playbook from term one.
Agreed.
And it no longer applies because of his erratic behavior. And he's not the same person as he was in term one. So I really don't think that that's a good way to play it. But I do notice that he seems to be playing the lead role Macron does in trying to appease Trump for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it myself. The other thing that he did repeatedly, he did this about 7 or 8 times, is he continued to talk about the looks of men.
Yes.
You know, he did it with multiple people at this.
Yes.
Look at him. He's a strong, handsome man. Look at how good looking he is. You know, he talked about Modi being good looking and this person and that
Okay.
person. And I'm like, every single guy he talks about now, he talks about how physically attractive they are. And, you know, I tell you, that's a symptom of dementia. I do know that part from practicing law and dealing with people who actually got in trouble with dementia, is that they often confuse men and women, young and old people. You know, it's very bizarre because he never used to do this. He did it occasionally back in the day. You know, he'd talk about the big, strong men.
But that was about eugenics before.
Now where he's talking about how physically attractive
Yes.
they are and
Yes.
handsome they are. And he can't stop doing it. It's like every decent looking guy now is Tom Cruise to Donald Trump. And it's very creepy.
Well, it's his inner gay is coming out as he is, you know, becoming more and more demented. And I mean, I'm all for that, to be honest. I want to see this stuff because it's going to drive the MAGA base wild.
I mean, he's interior decorating the White House. You know, I mean, it's one thing after another that seems to indicate that is coming out.
Interior desecrating, I think you'll find the phrase.
Yeah, that's a better term.
Yeah. He also was talking about ballistic missiles and just totally bonkers. Let's have a look.
In the history of our country. So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said you shouldn't give them more. And I have guys. I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? They're going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. It doesn't work that way, you know? It doesn't work that way. Missiles aren't the problem. They hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet. So the Gulf nations will address the non-nuclear issues.
Yeah, this is the art of the deal. He is getting a lot of criticism for now praising the Iranians, putting them on a pedestal, saying that, you know, he's got this stock material where he's like, we killed the leadership, then the second leadership, we killed them, then the third leadership, and some of them are still alive, but the people we're talking to now are actually quite rational and not radical. I mean, this is, A, it's nonsense, but B, it's almost like he's been backed into a corner so much, and obviously surrendering, I mean, that's the only way we can really describe it, that he's having to just completely change the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, it's so bizarre. And, you know, you watch that clip and you just watch Rubio. I can't take my eyes off Rubio when Trump is talking. Yeah. I mean, as terrible as Trump sounds, Rubio looks like he would be willing to be anywhere else. He would be willing to be waterboarded at Guantanamo rather than stand there behind Trump while Trump is saying this nonsense. He does not want to be in this camera shot. And you almost see Lutnick, you know, kind of inching his way off camera a little bit and getting further and further away from Trump. Because what you just saw in that clip was like minute 45 of him rambling before he even took any questions, rambling about all kinds of different subjects. So you're right, though. This is a new thing that he started doing like 5-6 days ago, is all of a sudden the leaders of Iran have become like Putin or Kim Jong-un or Xi, where he's praising them all of a sudden. You know how he always lavishes praise on dictators and talks about how wonderful they are. He's literally started to do that with the leaders of Iran, with the Iranian regime. He has repeatedly this week talked about how smart they are, that they're good people, that they're honest people, that he can reason with them and deal with them, like building them up all of a sudden. You compare what he was saying when this war started and to what he's saying now. where he said, we're going to completely annihilate their military. They'll have no missiles, no nukes, no nothing. We're going to destroy them. They'll have nothing left. The Iranians are terrorists. They're a terrorist regime. They're the worst regime in the history of the world. They want to blow up the world. And now they're great guys. They're nice, good guys to sit down and have a beer with. And you know what? They can keep their missiles because, missiles, they don't really hurt too many people. It's not like they're going to blow up the whole world with their missiles. So it's all right that they can keep their missiles. It's just sort of like he knows how bad this deal is in the back of his mind. And he's somehow trying to justify it like, what's a few missiles? They're nice guys. They're not going to shoot them at anybody. I mean, that's where we're at.
He's also saying they can keep their enriched uranium because it's not of much use to us. It's not worth much money. I'll show that clip in a moment. Let's look at the clip first, though, of him really trying to change this storyline and say how great the Iranians are.
We're dealing with people that I think are very rational people. I mean, they were nice to deal with. They were strong people, smart people. I think actually they're smarter than the first and second group. But they're not radicalized, and they're, looking to help their country.
The other guy is that the leader of Qatar on the other sofa?
I don't even know.
Right.
I mean, the only thing I can think of what he's trying to do here is because he bombed and killed a lot of the original leadership of Iran, although many of their very senior leaders were not killed, but. And, the narrative that was out there from a lot of Iran experts from around the world said that the crew that has stepped up and taken their place are much worse and much more radical. But Trump doesn't want to say that. So he's saying the opposite. He's saying, oh, no, these new people are much more reasonable. Like the leadership of Iran, after you killed their spiritual leader, bombed an elementary school, sunk their navy, did all these things to them, that they're now going to be more friendly and reasonable to the United States post-Trump war than they were before. I mean, I know he's trying to spin this as some kind of positive thing, but I think all the Iran hawks on the Republican side, your Mark Levins, your Lindsey Grahams, I mean, no matter how they're trying to hold their nose and act like this probably maybe will be okay, you can tell that they know this is a bad deal.
The other thing, which I think we should focus on more, is that this is a guy who is telling the cameras and therefore the international community stuff that is blatantly untrue about things that are entirely verifiable through other means. So it's almost as if he expects nobody to look anything up, nobody to have any knowledge of the Iranians, of the culture, of the region, of the history, or the details of this deal. He operates entirely, and this is the mental illness, operates entirely with this tunnel vision approach that if he says it, that it must be true, and nobody will ever question it. And that is such a blatant sign of this personality disorder. And the little dementia mixed in, and the narcissism and everything else. It is so unhealthy, mentally unhealthy, and we've got to stop just acknowledging that he says these things and it's okay, because the other leaders are listening to this garbage and thinking, okay, what are we going to do with this guy? Because there has been talk. In fact, historians and the scholars are saying explicitly that the insanity is so dangerous, and we got to stop kind of laughing it off, because as the people around him do, they all chuckle when he says these things. But this is the language of fascism. It is extremely dangerous, and I don't trust him.
Yep, I agree. I mean, you would hope that from this debacle, this attempt at a war, which he thought was going to be quick and easy and result in unconditional surrender and regime change, you would hope that he would learn his lesson, and he would say, well, this was a disaster. This really derailed the second year of my second term.
Yeah.
And, wrecked the economy. And I'm not going to make this mistake again. But the problem is he doesn't learn from his mistakes. He doubles down because he never reflects on them. He never admits failure. He never doesn't have any introspection. Like, you've never heard him sit down and go, I've given whatever the subject is a lot of thought, and I've mulled it over, and I think I made a mistake there, and I need to do better, and I'm going to improve. I mean, that's not something you would ever hear Trump say about anything. So he doesn't learn from his mistakes. He doubles down on them. He triples down on them, and makes things worse.
And also, he knows that he's getting away with things. I mean, I heard this yesterday when he was talking about the UFC. Somebody asked him about, well, if he'll keep the structure. We'll talk about this a little bit later. And he's like, I think I got away with it. He knows when he's doing wrong, and he knows that he's crowbarring things through that are not protocol and inappropriate, and he doesn't care. But when it comes to the war, this is not something that you can just make up as you go along. I mean, this is having international ramifications, not least with energy prices. And I don't know, I just worry that when he gets backed into a corner, as Tim Snyder says, that he'll be like, screw it. If I'm going down, I'm taking the whole world down with me. And I don't want to alarm people, but we have to be realistic about how nuts this guy is.
Well, the one good thing we have going for us is the check on the nuclear football is the Secretary of Defense. So
right.
Well, we have Pete Hegseth there. I'm sure we have nothing to worry about.
I don't know that
with such a responsible, level-headed guy like Pete Hegseth there to say no to the commander in chief.
I mean, this is why, all that criticism of Mark Milley the first time around, where he had to have secret talks with his counterpart in China to say, listen, Trump might be saying this stuff, but this is not a threat of war. And obviously Trump was very critical of Milley and tried to court-martial him and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, the military, I hope, are also that kind of protective layer between the nutcase who paints his face orange and has, pink hair and the nuclear codes.
You brought up Milley. It's interesting that they have never really looked to prosecute him, which they definitely talked about. I mean, that was high up on the MAGA agenda, was prosecuting Milley for disobeying orders or treason or whatever the case may be. I mean, that was big thing during the campaign, and that's just kind of fallen by the wayside. They never even bring that up anymore. But thank God, we had people like Milley and Mark Esper. I mean, there were certainly things about that each of them that annoyed me from time to time.
Yes.
But again, you take a guy like, but I will say this: they said no to Trump plenty of times and pissed off Trump plenty of times. And give Milley credit. When he did that one stunt there where they went out to the church and all that in D.C. outside the White House with the Bible holding up.
Yeah.
The next day he apologized and said, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I made a mistake there. I mean, that's very unusual for anybody in the Trump White House.
Talking of people missing in action, I was thinking about John Radcliffe. Where's he? I haven't seen or heard from him for a while either. I kind of feel like people, as you said earlier, they don't want to be associated with these announcements or this regime. And anybody who does have a good head on their shoulders is stepping back and just allowing this shit show to kind of play out.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's kept a very low profile. A lot of people speculated when Tulsi Gabbard was fired that Radcliffe, that they were not even going to fill the DNI position, which was created after 9/11, and that they were just going to leave that spot open, and Radcliffe was going to assume those duties. As many people believe that he has already assumed those duties unofficially, and that Gabbard didn't really have much of a portfolio or much of a job. So that's the word, is that Radcliffe is really running the intel side of the house, and the DNI has kind of lost a lot of their authority. But with him appointing a serious person as the next DNI, if that ever happens, I mean, he's got the interim pulting clown right now, but if he ever does appoint the actual full-time DNI, that would scale back Radcliffe's portfolio a little bit.
But he changed his plan with Pulte this week, didn't he? Or yesterday, he just announced that he's acting and he wants to leave him in place, and the new person he's now holding off because he wants them to sign the SAVE Act. And I mean, he's playing a kind of, it's not 4D chess because he's not capable of that. He's playing kind of 1D chess.
Well, this I think it was early this morning or late last night. He put out that tweet, which really shocked Republican senators. Because John Thune, and it was seen really as a shot at John Thune, going after Thune again.
Right.
And if you read the post, there's so much in it that it has launched literally multiple conspiracy theories, just this one post, because it's over something very important. It's very bizarre because you see the Democrats really did not want Bill Pulte to ever serve a single day as DNI. He's that irresponsible and reckless. They didn't ever want him gaining access to some of the very, very most sensitive secrets that we have as a country, when he has zero qualifications for it and is probably a dangerous, reckless person. So that Republican senators wanted FISA extended, which allows surveillance, another post 9/11 law. They wanted that extended. They wanted the next DNI to be confirmed quickly and easily. And so a deal was made with Democrats who didn't want Pulte to serve, to confirm the new DNI and to agree to vote for the FISA extension. That deal was done, and it was supposed to happen today or tomorrow. And then Trump, at the last minute, pulled the rug out from under the whole thing and said, I don't want this confirmation hearing to go forward. I don't want this confirmation vote to go forward for DNI. I want Pulte to go in there, and until Thune passes the SAVE Act, so he wrapped that in to part of this whole deal, which I think that was sort of the icing on the cake. I don't think the SAVE Act is really the reason why he's doing this. But he said, I don't want this to go forward. I want Pulte to start out as the interim, and until the SAVE Act is passed, I don't want my full-time nominee to take the job.
Yeah.
So clearly the SAVE Act is not going to pass. Thune has said again last night, we don't have the votes. So what is Trump really up to? Well, the speculation here is that he wants Pulte to get this position for one specific purpose, that he wants him to go in there to do something. The question is, what is that thing?
Yeah.
And many on the right in MAGA are speculating that there's something to do with the 2020 investigation,
right? That
Trump wants to use the 2020 election.
Yes.
That Trump wants to use the intelligence services to investigate or to dig into.
But and
he knows that the other guy is not going to do that because he's more responsible.
Correct.
And Pulte will do anything Trump tells him to do.
But the reason he's racing to do this is because he's going to interfere with the midterms. And so if he can get Pulte to do his bidding over 2020, he can then claim that here's my proof, we have investigated it. So now the midterms, the director of national intelligence is going to be all over it. Now, of course, the rhetoric is that the states run the elections and it's not the federal government, but because this is a national intelligence issue or national security issue, that then Trump will take the reins.
Because look, when he wanted Powell, the Fed chair, prosecuted, investigated, it was Pulte.
Yeah.
When he wanted Adam Schiff investigated, prosecuted, it was Pulte.
Yeah.
When he wanted Letitia James investigated and prosecuted, it was Pulte. Pulte was the one who initiated all of those from his position as the housing director.
Correct.
He initiated that, criminal referrals to DOJ. Now, what would a moron like that, a psycho like that, do as the director of national intelligence with respect to the 2020 election? So it may be that this was Trump's plan all along, but right now I believe that the FISA has lapsed, that it is no longer in effect. So I don't believe that any federal law enforcement agencies can even get FISA surveillance warrants at a time when maybe the terrorist threat to the United States has never been higher.
Yes.
That we can't even get surveillance warrants now for domestic terrorist threats because this law has lapsed. And So I don't know exactly what game Trump is playing here, but this is going underreported. What's happening right now.
You're 100% right. And I would even throw in the investigation of Gavin Newsom and his wife into this mix too. Newsom made a speech yesterday and said, we're being investigated. They're basically looking for a crime. They don't have one in mind. They're not going to find anything. But this is all to discredit Gavin Newsom as a potential presidential candidate in 2028. And Trump knows that these people who speak out, who say the truth, who open the curtain on him operating the levers of power, he doesn't need those people around, so he will take them out of the equation.
He'd be doing Gavin Newsom a major favor, if he did something like that. I mean, Gavin Newsom would gain 10 points in the polls at a time when a lot of people who are on Newsom early are talking a lot about John Ossoff.
Yes.
A Trump investigation of Newsom would help him politically.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, I want to go back because I promised I'd play the clip about Trump saying that he doesn't even care about Iran's nuclear enrichment anymore, which we should remind people was the original reason that he went to war. And this is the line that he trots out and everybody trots out. We cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Now, apparently not important. Let's take a look.
So the Atomic Energy just reported that it was one of the most devastating bombings that they've ever seen. The whole mountain collapsed on top of it. And frankly, to go get it, we're going to go get it. But to go get it is a big deal because they say only China and us have the equipment where you can even get. The whole mountain is collapsed on top. We have cameras on it. You could make the case why are you even bothering, because it's not really valuable. It's it's probably $500,000 worth. It's not very valuable stuff. But I think psychologically we want to get it.
The value of the enriched uranium, what's he going to do? Sell it on the black market?
Psychologically, we want to get it.
Yeah.
So he's saying that we don't really need to get their enriched uranium. First of all, he said last, whatever it was, June of 2025, that it was all gone, that it had been completely wiped out, destroyed, didn't exist anymore. Now it's okay, they still have it, but it's under a mountain. When we know a lot of it was moved, we know that. Some of it, based on intelligence reports, was buried.
Yeah.
Some of it was removed after it was buried. Some of it was moved before the bombings.
Right.
So it's a mixed bag. But according to Trump now, we don't really need to get it anymore. But because it's buried, we don't need to worry about it. But psychologically, we might want to get it, but that's not that important. So what is he saying when he says psychologically? What he's saying is to save face for his own PR. That he said that this was the purpose of the war, was we were at the minimum, we were going to get all of their uranium. That was the number one reason why he initiated this war. That was the number one priority. Now he's saying it's not that important.
John Kennedy had something to say about all of this, didn't he? Because, we mentioned Lindsey Graham earlier, and there was this weird moment when a member of one of the reporters said to Trump, Lindsey Graham's questioning the deal and everything. He's like, is he? Well, he's going to be in big trouble. Kind of let that slip again, the kind of dictator in chief keeping his minions in check. But John Kennedy was asked. Let's see what he had to say.
Are you confident that Iran is going to give up its nuclear ambitions, or do you have any sort of skepticism?
Well, what? If you, how can I put this? Unless you were homeschooled by a day drinker, no one's confident that Iran's going to do anything, and it's unfair to hold anyone to that standard. So if you want to go print a headline, Kennedy not confident, knock yourself out, but that's misleading.
Yeah. Spit it out, man. He, I wish he spent as much time talking about policy as he is about constructing his comedy routines.
Well, it's interesting because J.D. Vance was homeschooled by a day drinker. So, I don't know if he was referencing Vance there or not, but, I don't think that he should be using that as an attack line.
Yeah, a little inappropriate. But I mean, I'm just so tired of these old kind of people that should have retired years ago, like clinging on to power and their jobs. It's just so frustrating. You put people like him up against the kind of youth and the virility of Zoran Mamdani, and two completely different ways of governing. Mitch McConnell is another one, isn't he, who's now in hospital and is receiving care. And I mean, we've had to sit through him having these weird moments during hearings recently. And I mean, it's just these people are so unwell and clinging on. I mean, Dianne Feinstein did it as well. So it's not like it's just a Republican thing.
It's both parties.
Yeah.
Both parties, without a doubt.
Yeah.
On this, we can be bipartisan. Stock trades and people need to retire, when it's time for them to retire. And some people can be very sharp into their 80s. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
But the problem is you don't know. These people who slip, they're not aware of it. And apparently no one around them is able to communicate to them that they've lost it, which kind of makes you think that there really should be some kind of mandatory retirement age because, everybody thinks that they're fine. Even people with dementia think they're fine.
Of course.
But they're not. So you can't allow people to sort of self-police themselves. At some point, it's time to move on.
I mean, obviously we've been in, plenty of people have been talking about the 25th Amendment and all this stuff for ages. And it, it would benefit the Republicans if they got their house in order now, especially if they want to win another election, and whether it's J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or somebody else, but not Donald Trump, just for the sake of humanity, not Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end. I thought either he's physically not going to make it to the end of his term, but the other possibility that we talked about today was, that he will hang on physically, but he'll just be a babbling,
But that's the danger.
Now, like completely incoherent. And if he ever does get to that point, there's no way that his cabinet or the Republican Party will force him out.
No.
Because they're all still afraid of him. And that's really a problem with the 25th Amendment. I think that one of the things that the Trump presidency has exposed is really the flaws in our constitutional system and the weaknesses and the holes in it. And the 25th Amendment is way too difficult. It's way too difficult to remove a president.
Yes.
Asking his own cabinet to virtually unanimously vote to have him removed. I mean, these are the people that he appointed. They're
never going to do it.
There needs to be a better mechanism to remove a president, in my opinion.
But I would also back up and say that he's already incoherent. He's already lost his mind. We normalize it because we've had this for 10 years and we're used to it. But, I was watching Kamala Harris yesterday. Maybe you saw her giving her little, she was being interviewed. And it was just so refreshing to hear someone speak in complete sentences and to actually talk coherently and solidly from a position of leadership. Because obviously Biden frustrated a lot of us, but Harris, she's not perfect. But it was a reminder that the United States is basically on hold at the moment. It is not operating, it's not fully functional. And to hear her, she was leaning into Trump, obviously, and she was saying it how it is. But it was just a reminder that America is coherent when you've got people in charge who are have all of their ducks in a row. Trump is done. He is done. And the Republicans are fooling themselves and the rest of us by not doing anything about it.
Yep, for sure.
One final thing on this deal, because there was this kind of hilarious image about the money that Obama returned to the Iranians in the original Iran nuclear deal versus what Donald Trump is suggesting. 1.7 billion versus 300 billion. Of course, Trump is always talking about this 757, which he says he knows a lot about because he has a 757 that was the plane that was stuffed with cash. I mean, I did some research on this, and I can't even find the 1.7 billion. I found about $400 million.
That's actually more correct.
Right, that was returned. But this was money that had been seized. So they were, and it was also for a prisoner.
It was
swap.
money that the United States had been holding on to since 1979.
Right. So
that was Iranian money.
Yeah.
So but by the way, that was posted on social media by David Stockman, Ronald Reagan's budget director.
Right.
Posted that. Who hates Trump?
Yeah.
Who hates Trump?
Yeah.
He loves AI. That guy. He's another pretty old guy, but he loves AI and he loves to go after Trump. But that was posted by David Stockman, Reagan's budget director. So not some liberal crazy.
These are the signs that Republicans, some of whom are not all aligned with Trump, or at least see which way is up, that are breaking away. And Trump will do whatever he can to kind of silence these factions, won't he? But ultimately, and things are changing. I'm not. It's not that I'm buoyed by it, but I recognize that it cannot go on like this. I mean, what Trump said about Iran laughing at Obama is just made up. Let's take a look.
Of it, like, oh my, look at this money he's giving us. He tried to bribe his way out. I didn't do that. Nobody mentions that. 1.7 billion and hundreds of millions of dollars. They tried to bribe their way out of it. And you know what the Iranians did? They laughed at Obama and they said he's a stupid son of a bitch. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, it's almost
That's
like
how he ended.
Well, because I think in his brain he panicked that he'd used really inappropriate language at the G7, and probably was like, "Okay, Grandpa, we need to, we need to go back into the home now, especially in that easy chair."
Yeah. Meanwhile, we are a precursor to the deal as we're immediately lifting all sanctions on Iran.
Yeah.
All sanctions on their oil.
Yep.
And agreeing to free up $300 billion in money and frozen assets to release to Iran. Yeah, that's if Obama was bribing them, this is a 1,000 times more bigger bribe. And just for Trump to get out of this war and have Iran open up the strait.
We have to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk about the UFC fight and the controversy there. We've also got the reflecting pool, which has gone green after Trump painted it, American flag blue. And the ballroom, of course, which we are now paying $600 million for. We'll do that and a whole lot more next on Uncovered. My cat has somehow convinced me that he is both a tiny predator and a member of the royal family. Seriously, he'll turn his nose up at food one day and then demand a fresh meal 5 minutes later like he's negotiating a peace treaty. But a while back, we were dealing with constant hairballs and messy digestion and, let's just say, litterbox situations that could clear a room. And that's when I tried Smalls. Well, he tried Smalls. Smalls is a fresh cat food made with human-grade ingredients and packed with protein that cats are actually designed to eat. No weird fillers, no mystery ingredients, just real food delivered right to your door. And the difference has been pretty incredible. My cat, Shuby, goes absolutely feral for these recipes. His coat looks softer, he's got more energy, and there are definitely fewer unpleasant surprises in the litter box. It makes sense, too. Smalls' fresh, gently cooked recipes are easier to digest, which means cats absorb more nutrients and produce less waste. Less shedding, fewer hairballs, healthier digestion, and a shinier coat. And I'm clearly not the only one seeing results. Forbes ranked Smalls as the best overall cat food, and after switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. Plus, if your cat is picky, you can try it risk-free. They'll refund you if your cat won't eat it. So, stop serving your little carnivore a bowl of processed shortcuts for a limited time because you're an uncovered listener. Get 60% off your first order plus free shipping and free treats for life when you head to smalls.com/uncovered. That's 60% off your first order plus free shipping and free treats for life when you head to smalls.com/uncovered. Getting older changes the way you think about lots of things. I used to think life insurance was one of those I'll deal with it later kind of tasks until I started hearing stories from friends who'd lost a parent unexpectedly and saw how stressful everything became for the family left behind. That really shifted my mindset because life insurance isn't really about you. It's about helping you give the people you love some financial security if something unexpected happens. And honestly, I always assumed that getting coverage would be this huge process with appointments and paperwork and all that stuff, but Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and even get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions online. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies are as low as $30 a month. What I like is that it removes a lot of the friction that normally keeps people from getting this stuff done in the first place. Take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/uncovered. That's ethos.com/uncovered. Application times may vary, rates may vary. A weird thing happened to me a couple of years ago. I was doing everything the same workouts, same diet, same schedule, but somehow everything felt harder. I'd get to the gym and I'd just feel flat. I'd wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep. Nothing dramatic, just that feeling like you're constantly pushing a car uphill. And nobody really talks about this stuff. You just assume that you're getting older and that's how it's supposed to be. Then I started looking into testosterone health and learned that a lot of men start seeing changes after 30. That's when I found Mars Men. What I like about Mars Men is it's not injections or anything crazy. It's made with natural ingredients like Tongat Ali, Shilajit, vitamin D, zinc, boron, and much more. It's designed to help your body optimize energy, focus, strength, and stamina. Personally, I've noticed more consistent energy throughout the day and better recovery after workouts. It's not like chugging coffee. It's more of a steady feeling that you're ready to get things done. And it's made right here in the USA, third-party tested with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. And you can find links to our sponsors in the description below. And it's not easy to say 3 free gifts. I think I passed the test.
I'm glad I don't have to do it.
Right. I'd love to see you do those. Okay, let's talk about the UFC thing, because, this happened a few days ago now, and there's been all this criticism of the White House and the claw that has landed. I mean, it really does look, I thought it was a promotion for Spielberg's Disclosure Day. I mean, I genuinely thought a kind of UFO had landed on the White House lawn. It turns out it was a UFC. See what I did there? There was this weird kind of abuse of Michelle Obama that kind of spewed out the mouth of one of the fighters. So weird that there's even fighting going on the lawn of the White House in the shadow of the Lincoln Memorial. And Trump, of course, boasting about it at the G7. I mean, that was all he really wanted to talk about. Did you see the fight? Wasn't that a great fight? That last fight was tough. That was rough. So completely weird. But tell us about the Michelle Obama controversy.
Well, yeah, I mean, just about that. I mean, Trump used to be a big boxing fan, for many, many years, used to go to all the fights. But then, the UFC came along, which is a much more violent, bloody sport with very few rules. And Trump sort of shifted his focus. He almost completely stopped going to boxing matches and following boxing and gravitated toward the sport because Trump loves violence, and Trump loves watching other people inflict violence on each other and beat on each other. He would never do it himself. He's never been in a physical altercation in his entire life, but because he's physically afraid, he's not a brave person, despite acting like a tough guy. So, but that's why he loves UFC fights, because I think he admires people who have courage. That's why it's the same thing with the military. He wishes he was like that, but he's not, and he knows that he's not. So he likes others doing it as well. But so he brings his obsession, and he also likes the fact, by the way, that the UFC crowd and fans embrace Trump, right. And that's largely because of the owner of UFC, Dana White, is a big Trump, backer, big Trump supporter. And a lot of the fighters are as well. And so that's another reason why he likes the sport, is because he doesn't get booed by those fans when he goes, like he did at the NBA game. So, he brings this spectacle to the White House, which we now know, Dana White said he's asked about it afterwards, and he said, I will never, ever do this again. This was a nightmare. It was a disaster. I think even he didn't realize the scope of what he had to do. And one of the things that he has to do now is replace the White House lawn, which is completely annihilated, destroyed. And he agreed as a condition of this to restore the lawn. So, it's one thing after another. It's all the advertising that was done.
Yeah.
Pushing the Paramount Plus subscriptions.
Oh, yeah.
All the corporate sponsors, including True Social. It's illegal to use government resources and government property to promote for-profit businesses. But right. Trump just ignores all of that. None of those laws apply anymore. Hatch Act doesn't apply anymore. Nothing applies anymore. There are no rules. But then the icing on the cake, the coup de grace, the grand finale of awfulness and disgustingness for this whole event was this boxer who brings out this MAGA conspiracy theory, which has been on for a long time. Donald Trump Jr. has pushed this conspiracy theory multiple times, which is that they believe that Michelle Obama is a man. I mean, that is not like a joke. Like, they're very serious about this. I've followed this conspiracy for a decade now, which is, what they claim is that Obama was gay and that he couldn't admit he was gay or have a gay partner and get elected president. And so he had to create this fake make-believe marriage. And what they claim to sort of back this up is what they say is that you can't find any pictures of Michelle Obama pregnant, that they have never, if you search the internet, you look everywhere, there's no pictures of Michelle Obama pregnant. And that proves that their children were born with a surrogate, that there was somebody else that gave birth to the children. It's a very elaborate QAnon type conspiracy, which is normally relegated to the dark corners of the internet. However, we now had it broadcast on national television from the lawn of the White House at an event, which is, I think probably the perfect way to end this disgusting spectacle was to show MAGA in all its glory. Because I'm sure there were plenty of normal people that heard that. They might not have been watching the fight, but they saw that clip and they were probably shocked by it. But this is a legitimate conspiracy that probably 10 million MAGA supporters have believed for many years. It's now just surfaced out in the open. And by the way, another reason why that Dana White, who was and Paramount was so disgusted or humiliated by this, was the fact that they very aggressively put in copyright complaints to people that put that up and were taking it down off social media. They eventually gave up because now the clips have circulated, but initially they were trying to force them all to be taken down.
Let's take a look.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America? Ladies and
Trump was also promoting Dana White at the G7, talking about him endlessly. What a great guy. What a great guy. I mean, I'll do anything for Dana. He's just great. It's just so weird trying to kind of cross-pollinate, where you're talking about, the Iran war and the world energy crisis and really serious things. And Trump's head is basically in the UFC, his ballroom, bare knuckle fighting. I mean, going back to his homosexuality, I mean, he obviously likes to watch guys thrashing it out.
Absolutely.
Just
by the way, I'll say
pants.
that fighter right there showed up at the weigh-in, which was done on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
I know.
Another desecration.
I know.
That guy showed up stone cold drunk. That guy was hammered. He could barely stand up the couple days before. That's the same guy, who just said that about Michelle Obama.
I don't even know really what to say about this bunch, but it is not representative of America as I know it. And I really hope that, the G7 leaders that are trying to, get on with their jobs of running their respective countries and the world together can put this to one side once this period in history is over. This is dark. I mean, seeing these guys come out at the top of the Lincoln Memorial and come down the steps like gladiators, I mean, these are dark times, Ron. Historians will write about this forever after.
Yeah, and you hear a lot from Republicans like, oh, Democrats need to lighten up, stop taking all this stuff so seriously, stop getting so worked up over these things. Well, we respect the history of the country. We respect the monuments and what they mean and the symbols of the nation's capital. And, we've all been taught since young kids to believe in some of the mythology of America. Now, a lot of the stuff we wise up and a lot of that stuff gets debunked when we go to college and we learn more. But still, there's still a sense of mythology about the country. And when you drag it through the mud and you basically turn it into a trailer park, it just coarsens discourse. It takes the United States government and just drags it through the mud.
Yeah.
And to see something like that, the Lincoln Memorial, I mean, the most revered president, every historian rates Lincoln number one, maybe a couple rank him number two. There's very few negative things that even the most critical people who always find fault in every American president can really have a difficult time finding fault with any of Lincoln or his presidency. A man who was assassinated, and it's also the place where Martin Luther King, gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. So many powerful moments. Vietnam protests.
Yeah.
And to take it and turn it into, a drunk idiot showing up, for a weigh-in for a fight it's just gross. That's where we've come.
That's where we've come. Let's find this connection between the UFC fights and the ballroom, because we spoke about this type of propaganda before, after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, when the guy tries to get in and he is nowhere near Trump, but they claimed it was an assassination attempt. Now there was some kind of, we're very light on detail about the FBI arresting some people because they found something and some threat, but that ultimately confirms that the ballroom is essential because it's a secure place, even though now it's going to cost $600 million versus the original $200 million that was going to be paid for by Trump and his friends. Tell us about this.
Well, this is another case to keep an eye on, because I've already predicted that the big indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center, they are going to lose that trial. I've already predicted, and they're going to lose the Comey trial.
Yeah.
And it's rare that you can ever say about a high profile federal prosecution that the feds are going to lose, because they lose almost never. Their conviction rate is like 96%. So it's highly unusual for them to lose a case, because usually they don't charge somebody, the Department of Justice, with a serious crime unless the evidence is overwhelming. But I've already predicted those two, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict a third one right now. these people, these knuckleheads that were just arrested for the terrorist plot, which are now calling an assassination attempt to attack the of Trump, to attack the UFC fight with drones by these knuckleheads, that they are prosecuting these guys. I predict that they're going to lose this case. So and the reason why I make some of these predictions is I was a criminal defense lawyer for almost 30 years. So, I mean, I defended a lot of cases and a lot of conspiracy cases. And the way this case is shaping up is that apparently what I can tell from the little bit of evidence that's out there, and this was said by, I think it was Rubio said this, that it was at the very early planning stages. No, I think it was Vance that said it, that these guys were basically just BSing. They were just talking. They were just ruminating, like, hey, let's get some drones and attack the UFC fight. The problem is, you can talk with somebody else about committing a crime. We can sit here and say, hey, let's go rob this bank tomorrow, and sit in our living room, get drunk or whatever, and plot all kinds of crazy things. And somebody might have a recording of that. Well, we can't be prosecuted for that, because a conspiracy also requires you to do something in furtherance of the conspiracy. In other words, just talk is not enough. You have to actually go out and buy the drones, or scope the place out. You have to actually do something more than just talk about it.
Right. Well, they have to prove intent. Right.
And from what I can tell, these guys were just talking nonsense, and they ended up getting charged with what they're now calling an assassination attempt. But the other thing about it is what you alluded to, which is this is yet another thing that Trump is using as an excuse why the taxpayers have to pay for the ballroom again. They're now citing this plot in an official court filing. In the ballroom court case, they are citing this bogus, ridiculous UFC plot as another justification why the judge should lift all restrictions on ballroom construction.
I mean, it does pose the question, and I think I might have said this last week, but I don't know anybody else who's really saying it. When he's talking about snipers and drones, who has he identified as the enemy? Because the White House does not come under attack very often, if ever, right? Occasionally you get nutters charging the gates, but people don't get in. It's not like that terrible movie that I saw a few years ago where there was White House Down or something, terrible. But Trump must, in his mind, in his demented mind, be projecting, because this kind of plays into my theory that he ain't leaving and he wants that ballroom built as his bunker, that it's him that's going to be holding out in there, and the snipers are going to be shooting at American citizens and the military and anybody who's going to try and get in to take Trump away. I don't see who the enemy is. Is it Democrats? I mean, because he did say that his greatest regret was leaving the White House. When he did.
I mean, it was Vance.
When he lost.
It was Vance, by the way, who said that when I was trying to think who it was, because I now remember his full quote of what he said.
Right.
He said it yesterday, which he said, look, he said these guys, it was never really a serious threat to them.
Yeah.
Because what he said is we already have so many layers of protection. Again, I don't know if Trump wanted him out there saying this, but he's like, we have so many layers of protection, a lot of which, he said at the White House, a lot of which the general public doesn't even know about, that we're very safe and secure already with what is in place. And obviously we've never had a president assassinated in the White House. I don't think we've ever had anyone killed in the White House.
So who is the enemy in this case?
Yeah, that's the question. And why does it need to be, secure, almost like a military base? It's where we have snipers and drones and everything, all of and not only that on the roof, but the bunker, the elaborate bunker system as well,
which has a hospital,
which will probably end up being the most secure facility on Earth by the time this thing is done. And so we now have learned, though, by the way, through the appropriations process and everything else, that the ballroom is going to cost $600 million. We learned that in the last few days, right, from this Washington Post report. And that we got that from, as they said, a summary that was prepared by the contractor, that the total is now $600 million, and half of it, $300 million, is coming from the taxpayers. Now, we were assured when this project was launched by Trump, by Caroline Leavitt, by everybody, that it was going to cost $200 to $300 million, and taxpayers were not going to have to pay a dime. We were assured that over and over and over again. Zero taxpayer money. So it was only going to cost $200 million, $250 million, and none of it was going to come from the taxpayers. Now we know, according to the contractor who's doing the project, it's $600 million, and $300 million of that is being paid by the taxpayers. And I'm going to bet you, when all is said and done, it's going to be all paid by the taxpayers.
I agree.
It's going to be like 90%.
Yeah, I agree. Because originally Trump was saying he was going to pay for it. Well, he doesn't pay for anything. Not a dime.
Not a penny.
Let's take a look at Caroline Leavitt on this question.
Danny.
Thanks, Caroline. Back to the ballroom, I'm afraid. I just wanted to ask, because in July, the White House said that it would cost $200 million. Yesterday, the president said $300 million. Is $300 million now the operative figure, and why did it go up by so much?
$300 million is the figure, and again, it's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime. So we look forward to this project continuing, and we will continue to keep everyone apprised on it. Perhaps the president will even bring you all out to see it one day at the appropriate time. You're also going to hear from the president directly in about an hour. He's hosting an event with the Homeland Security Task Force. This was a newly created federal task force that the president and his law enforcement team have put together. I would encourage you all to tune in to the remarks. They have really done a tremendous job at refocusing how federal law enforcement and local law enforcement work together. There will be some local sheriffs and law enforcement officials in attendance as well, and they'll be talking about the success and the many arrests they have made of drug traffickers and cartel members all across the country by just simply working together. So we will see you at the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline.
She's on the back foot, isn't she? And, you know, you can really see the difference when she's hot on a topic or when she's defending and backpedaling and knows that she's having to lie for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, that was nearly a year ago. You know, she said it's $300 million. That's it. And taxpayers are not going to have to pay a dime. Yeah, one of her thousands of lies.
Yeah.
We now know is complete fiction.
Yeah. They're talking about it on Fox, obviously, and I think this was on Hannity. Let's take a look.
You can't have a nuclear deal for 10, 20 years, similar to the JCPOA. And the funding is real. There's a $300 billion investment fund. Who cares where the money comes from? If it doesn't come from the United States, I get that. Of course it shouldn't. But it shouldn't come from anybody. I mean, when we recovered Germany and Japan, the Nazis weren't in charge. The Japanese imperialists weren't in charge. Here, the Iranians are in charge. The killers and thugs are still in charge. We don't give them that money because what are they going to do with it? They're going to recover everything we've taken away from them. Who cares whether it's coming from the Arabs, from the Qataris, or whatever? They don't get it. They shouldn't get any of it. That's just the reality of it. They're going to take that money.
I got my 300 millions mixed up there. There was 300 million for the Iranians, or 300 billion for the Iranians, or 300 million for the ballroom. There is a suggestion here, though, that because we played that clip from July last year of Caroline Leavitt, because the receipts that we bring are on video, and nothing is not recorded anymore. History has changed in the last 2 or 3 decades, whereby the receipts are for all to see. What do you think people like Caroline Leavitt and even Trump, or probably less so Trump because he doesn't really live in reality, how are they going to respond when eventually they're, hauled in front of a judge because of this propaganda and these lies and this abuse of their authority, and they are shown the evidence of their own misleading remarks?
Well, that's why I think so many members of the Trump administration in this term are one-offs, that you will never see the vast majority of these people in any presidential administration again, which is highly unusual. Throughout American history, we have had this continuity of people where even though you might have a different, like Obama comes in, look, there were plenty of Clinton administration people, veterans in the Obama administration. There were plenty of even more people from the Obama administration in the Biden administration. That was a big criticism of the Biden administration, that they brought too many former Obama people in. And so it's the same thing with Republican administration. Trump term 1 brought in a lot of the George W. Bush people and on appointments, but this is different. They've brought in all these oddballs and all these weirdos and all these odd ducks and put them in heavy, serious positions. And as you said, they have torched their futures forever by going along with all the lies and by repeating the lies on tape over and over again. Somebody like Caroline Leavitt, who's like 28 years old, has just ruined her future forever. As far as
she'll be a Fox host, though,
these people are not going to get jobs in a future Republican administration. I can tell you, even if Vance becomes president, he's not going to hire and appoint the vast majority of these people because they're all weirdos. I mean, you think Steve Chung is going to get another job in a future Republican administration? It's not going to happen. If we have a President Rubio 10 years from now, he's not going to bring any of these people in. Bill Pulte, all these people, Todd Blanche, none of these people, Stephen Miller, are going to get jobs in any future administration.
But are they going to get prosecuted, Ron? This is what I'm asking, because you're a former federal prosecutor. What are the odds of these people getting away with it and disappearing off, because they've all made a huge amount of money, right? They're all banking money. They've got stocks. They've got crypto. So that they're not going to need jobs.
That's going to depend on two things. It's going to depend on whether Trump pardons all these people at the end of his term, which I expect that he will. Yes. Although, in the past, Trump has not really cared about protecting people with preemptive pardons. He didn't do it after the first term. He only cares about himself typically, but we'll see. He very well may pardon a lot of people and may use the auto pen, which he criticized Biden for. By the way, interesting that the Iran deal is apparently going to be signed by auto pen. Looks like.
Oh, that's right. I thought he was supposed to go to Switzerland.
That's a little interesting little aside, since that was a frequent criticism Biden. But it's also going to depend on whoever the future Democratic administration, because I'd be willing to bet at least even money that no matter who it is, that person is not gonna do very many prosecutions of Trump administration officials, because I think that there's going to be a strong desire among whoever that is to move on and move forward and put this behind us, even though the Democratic base is going to definitely want prosecutions. I'm not that optimistic about it.
Yeah, but will these people even show up for hearings? This is my other concern, or they'll just be MIA.
Yeah. Well, we've seen them try that before too.
Right. And contempt of Congress and not showing up for a subpoena. But I just, it's like nothing sticks to these people. Let's just talk about Kash Patel for a second, because we know that this kind of slush fund that Trump was trying to, weaponize this huge $1776 billion basically for January 6 defendants and everybody else. So that is obviously now on the back burner because a judge has ruled that can't happen, but they're trying to kind of make it happen in other ways. And now we're hearing that Kash Patel has a slush fund to reward loyalists in his payback squad. Tell us about this.
This is really a shocking report. I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but the significance of this money is shocking. And this is a letter from Jamie Raskin to Kash Patel, who, of course, Raskin is, of course, a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee in the House. So basically, what has been learned is that Cash used $1 million that was in a fund and was using it to hand out bonus payments to his inner circle of loyalists at the FBI, who are the ones doing the dirty work. In other words, what this group of people were doing, the hit squad or whatever, their job was to track down and find rogue FBI agents and people who are leaking to the press, or people who might not be loyal to Patel, people who are leaking the stories about his travel and his girlfriend's Secret Service protection and his drinking. Yes. That all of those stories, always sourced confidential senior FBI official. And there was a squad of people inside the FBI that were Patel loyalists who were tracking those people down. They were doing polygraphs. They were investigating their own people to try and track them down and fire them. And Patel was rewarding them with bonuses. And some of them were getting like $8,000 extra per paycheck. That is illegal. It is illegal because federal civil servants, their pay is capped and they have pay grades. You can't have a political appointee handing out bonuses to federal employees. That's not how the government works. It's not how it ever works, because essentially that's a political appointee bribing civil servants.
Well, it's hush money,
handing out money for doing the dirty work that they want. So this is totally illegal. This definitely needs to be investigated. And apparently it only stopped when Patel ran out of money. The pool of money that had been set aside for something else that he was tapping into, it's all gone.
He's a fascinating creature, isn't he? I mean, the way that, I was watching a hearing with him the other day, and the Democrats were leaning into his private use of jets and just the lifestyle that he seems to lead, and the fact that he lives in Las Vegas, which is his excuse for everything. But if there is ever a person that is unsuitable for public office, I mean, they're all pretty terrible. I mean, all of them. But he really is a kind of conspiracy theorist podcaster, and that's as far as it ever should have gone.
Yep. I mean, I followed him for years before Trump took office, and this was one of the strangest, weirdest guys out there. I mean, I posted stuff about him all the time. The stuff that he did. I mean, I'll just give you I could give you hundreds of examples of crazy Kash Patel stories from before, but just one product that he used to sell was a pill which he said would prevent you from. There was this theory that people who got the COVID vaccine shed the vaccine, that the vaccine would leap from someone who had the COVID shot onto someone who didn't. And it was called shedding. That was the belief among many of the RFK Jr. disciples, that there was vaccine shedding happening, and the unvaccinated people didn't want to get contagion from the shedded vaccine. Kash Patel sold a pill which he said would inoculate you, would prevent you from getting vaccine shedding from somebody else. That's just one of the many products that Kash Patel sell. That's the guy who's now the FBI director. That just gives you a little taste of who Kash Patel is.
Yeah. But you could say the same for the RFK Jr. and Markwayne Mullin and any of these nut jobs that are in these very senior positions.
By the way, continues to fly back and forth between Oklahoma.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's running DHS who lives in Oklahoma now. Yeah. In other words, he was a senator from Oklahoma, and he would fly back and forth to D.C. all the time, which is kind of what we want senators to do. He's still doing it. He's going home every weekend.
Well, he's not having to pay for the flight. That's probably the reason.
Yeah.
We don't have long left, but I want to, before we get to the algae in the reflecting pool, our penultimate story is the women at Erica Kirk's Women's Leadership Summit, who are now out loud, well, have been brainwashed to say that they want to give up their vote to their husband. Now, this is something that we've covered in the past. With the last election, I seem to remember we did a lot of focus on this kind of far-right Christian nationalist movement whereby the man has all the authority. Women are supposed to stay home and make babies and make dinner, and they're not really allowed out to work or certainly vote. And then we were hearing a lot about men pressuring their wives to do mail-in voting that they would look over. They didn't want their wives going into polling places because then they couldn't control who they were voting for. Have I got that right? I think that was the story as I remember it. But now, I mean, the Erica Kirk stuff, I mean, we could talk about for hours, but we have this clip of this kind of expose. Let's take a look.
I'm going to start this off really strong. I don't think women should vote anyways. If somebody asked me, if the government was like, okay, if we could have a more conservative country, if all women gave up their vote, I would gladly give up my right to vote to have a more conservative country.
There's a lot of churches that talk about it.
Stone argues that women voters are too liberal, so the U.S. should shift to a one vote per household system.
Now, is that a hill I'm going to die on and run for office and try to complete? No. That's not my main message. That's just one of the opinions that I hold because I think that would be better for society.
I actually do agree with her. I would as well give up my vote if it got rid of things like abortion.
We spoke with several women open to giving up their own rights in pursuit of a more Christian conservative America.
My perspective as a Christian woman is that my husband and I are one flesh. I vote the same way he does, so honestly, I would be okay with giving up my right to vote because I know that he would represent me well.
If my husband's the head of the household, I am the neck, and we work very cohesively together. So I would imagine if he was voting on behalf of our household, I would be fine with that.
Do you think your daughter should have the right to vote?
I'd be okay if she didn't, because I also know she's going to marry a biblical man, that they would also be in line.
Ooh, my husband's the head, so I'm the neck.
See, this is Charlie Kirk is the one who started this women's summit, this Turning Point Women's Summit, which I've reported on for many years and posted many clips of this because the scene there is very bizarre. And, what they do is they bring in a lot of right-wing women, Fox hosts like Kayleigh McEnany has spoken there many times, Caroline Levitt, all of these different right-wing women figures, Carrie Lake, these types of people would come in, but Charlie Kirk was always the head of the ceremony. So it was largely like almost all women would be the speakers and the audience because it was called the Women's Leadership Summit, except Charlie Kirk would preside over the whole thing. And his messaging for them was very specific. And it was the trad wife, the traditional wife thing, which is that's what we need to go back to. We need to go back to, and he would kick off the summit by preaching his message, which was we need to get married young. We wait too long to get married. People need to get married in their early 20s or even in their late teens. They need to have many children. By the way, J.D. Vance has also spoken at this summit and given the same kind of message. You don't need to go to college, especially not women. It's not necessary. So get married early, have lots of kids, don't go to college, and do what your husband tells you to do. And now they've taken this to the next level because I haven't heard this. I've heard all the other messaging before, defer to your husband and all this and that, and have lots of kids and don't go to college. That's been a consistent theme. And of course, the Christian stuff is part of it. But this I have not heard before until this year, which is striking because this is now the first year where Charlie Kirk's not running it and Erica was running it. So now you have this new theme, which is women should give up the right to vote and should their husband should control their vote, almost like a proxy vote, and should vote. In other words, not that they give up their vote, but the husband should control their vote.
Right.
So their vote still counts, but the husband will cast the ballot for the wife.
Well, they're one flesh, apparently.
But, it really shows you, for years, I tried to get people to wake up to what Kirk was doing with this organization, this group. And I think a lot of people just kind of laughed at him and made fun of him. And I'm like, this is a growing movement and it's very serious. And it's not just telling people like, get married, have a family, and have kids. It goes way beyond that.
Yeah.
Way beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's really scary stuff.
Well, Kirk's stuff was like psyops in a way. You know, it was very cleverly positioned to give the impression that, you know, we're celebrating free speech and democracy and we're debating, and none of that was true if you look below the surface. But I mean, have you read The Handmaid's Tale? Because that's exactly what we're looking at now.
It's like he understood sort of how to package things.
Yeah.
To make it seem like it was a wholesome endeavor, and we're just trying to get back to the 1950s when Ozzie and Harriet and all that stuff, when everybody was happy and had nuclear families and nobody got divorced, right? Nope. Of course, it was all hidden below the surface. Nobody was gay, nobody was trans, and so that's sort of how Charlie packaged it, and it was very slickly done with the production. But this is another example where he's gone, and I've said this many times that with Charlie Kirk gone, this organization is gonna circle the drain until it's gone, and we're really seeing that, because I don't know that Kirk would have allowed something like that to be so openly talked about at the forum. This would have been discussions they would have maybe had behind the scenes or used more subtle messaging, but to be this blatantly, openly obvious, your husband should control your vote, that's something that's going to turn away a lot of people. Right. And Charlie wasn't about turning away a lot of people. He was always trying to expand his organization.
And this is where, the people that say that Charlie Kirk was smart, this is where his smartness came into use. Because he wasn't intelligent about policy. No. He was still a far-right nationalist.
Organizer.
Right.
He was an organizer.
He was an organizer. And Erica Kirk doesn't have these skills. No. She's not as good an actress as he was an actor, although she's quite good at crying. So, maybe she'll get a part in a film. All right, finally, let's talk about the reflecting pool, because it has changed color yet again, even though Donald Trump spent, $14 million fixing it up? Let's take a look.
And we're going to scoop up a water sample to see if we can get this tested.
CNN independently took the sample of water and consulted with a pool store that regularly tests water to help read the results. It showed phosphate levels far higher than what is recommended to keep algae at bay, based on estimates for a pool that holds 6.5 million gallons of water.
If there's already some phosphate fertilizer in the water, that's really opportunistic, especially for the blue-green algae that can fix nitrogen. So they are having a field day out here, probably.
The Department of Interior says they believe some of the initial problem was residual algae that had accumulated in pipes, and insists the filtration system called the ozone nanobubbler is working.
Ozone nanobubbler. I mean, this is Trump all over, isn't it? Firstly, he gets his pool guys in because he wants it to look a different color. And the pool guys are like, well, we're just pool guys, we're out. And then there's another contractor who claimed they'd never met Donald Trump or ever worked for him, even though he said it was his guys that were doing it. And he's done hundreds of pools at his properties. Nobody told him it's not actually a swimming pool, that this is a national monument. And it can't be changed in the way that he wanted it changed.
Yeah, I mean, it's the death of expertise. It's the right. We don't listen to scientists. They don't know anything. We don't listen to those environmental people.
Yeah.
They don't know anything either. My pool guy can figure this out.
Right.
And, the funny thing is that this has, again, launched many conspiracies. You have multiple MAGA people who claim that this was sabotaged, that, Democrats introduced this algae. Grant Stinchfield, who is a former Newsmax host and now Real America's Voice network host, said specifically that he believes that Democrats sabotaged the reflecting pool. So, I mean, the whole concept was he was going to paint this American flag navy blue, and it was going to be beautiful. And Trump put out AI photos, doing the side-by-side comparisons. And, if you pour fresh water into an outdoor pond, it's going to look great for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here. Yeah. And Trump is bragging about it and everything else. And then literally the whole thing turned green and toxic. And then we see them dumping chemicals
right
into it which kills birds. I mean, it would literally, if you were a duck and you landed in that thing, your days are numbered. You're not going to live very long.
They're trying to die.
The first thing I thought of was, one of the main underpinnings of Trump's whole windmill conspiracy, of why windmills are bad and why we need to get rid of them is because they kill birds. That the birds, he says it causes like a bird holocaust.
Yeah.
That they fly and he claims that wind turbines kill millions and millions of birds every year. And if you go under any wind turbine, you'll find thousands of dead birds on the ground.
And you get cancer.
And now his reflecting pond is toxic to birds.
Let's take a look at them dumping the hydrogen peroxide into it. The desperation.
What are we doing here? we're dumping toxic chemicals to kill off algae.
Yep.
I mean, this is Trump University all over again. This is Trump vodka.
Right.
This is Trump steaks, Trump Airlines.
But also, it's also Trump Tower, which was really badly built, apparently. Let's see how Fox are spinning this story. And this really kind of sums up how Fox is state regime media.
I'm here at the newly renovated reflecting pool. It's painted American flag blue. And the Democrats are going to tell you, oh, there's green algae, it looks so bad. But there's pool guys cleaning it up right now. No other president would do that. But President Trump is still cleaning it up. How is the reflecting?
Still cleaning it up after, didn't he originally say it was only going to cost like $2 million? And then it went up to $14 million.
And it's, as you can see, costing more every day as he's trying to keep it from being bright green.
Yeah.
It's, but you see Fox. I mean, if you're a regular Fox viewer, as many people are, you don't live in the real world. You're fed a steady dose of ridiculous propaganda.
And you know who is the biggest Fox viewer? Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Yeah.
Okay, we have to finish, but I'm grateful, as always, for your time and your expertise. I really enjoy hanging out with you every Wednesday. Download the audio podcast that drops later tonight. Check out our sponsors in the description below, and we'll come back next Wednesday with another Uncovered. Thank you, Ron.
All right. See you next week, everybody.